in verse number 14 of Ephesians 2. You see that? For He is our what? Peace. The meaning behind what's in the power is that it gives peace. You see that at the end of verse number 15. Trying to keep the law. Ephesians 2 verse 14 tells me peace has been established. Verse number 16, and that He might reconcile both unto God in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby. I'm not God's enemy. A true peace treaty has been drawn. I've been reconciled to Him. What the meaning behind the power of the gospel is, it not only gives us hope to those that are hopeless, it gives us peace. Turmoil. Romans chapter number 5, if you go back there, the next thing we see, the third point I'd like to bring out tonight in Romans chapter 5. Look at verse number 5. Is that not only do we have peace, but we have received love in a state where we're unlovable. When you meet a person that's lost, do you know what's one of the most powerful words in the English language that can be used? It's love. Go to the card section in Walgreens or Walmart or wherever they have cards, these cards, and you just start counting. Look at the cards and see how many of them have the word love in the card. Somewhere in there, I bet you at least 80% of them will have that word love. Why? Because people want to be loved. 3 words that you can say to somebody that can change their day. I love you. Or what us preachers say to each other, love you, brother. Love you. Love you, brother. We're unlovable. We're unlovable. And the meaning behind the power of the gospel is that we've received a great love and we are unlovable. God loved us. And He tells us in Romans chapter number 5, the Bible says, and hope maketh not ashamed, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Ghost, which is given unto us. You've experienced true love. If you've received Christ as your Savior, His love is shed abroad in your hearts. You can rightfully and biblically love now. You have Christ's love shed abroad in your heart. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Well, I should have perished. We deserve to perish. Why aren't we? God's love. What did He give us? His love. Through what? The power of the gospel. Love others. Love others. Don't forget to do that. Hope for the hopeless, peace for those in turmoil, love for the unlovable. Acts 4. And this next one, it doesn't matter what your personality is, and if you don't like that word because it's too psychological, or you just say your way of thinking, I don't know what to say. But however God has made you or wired you, this verse, it's not talking about having to change that. Do you know that there are people that are very reserved, and then there are people that are real outspoken? There are people that are very loud. And then there are people that are very soft. There are people that are chatterboxes. And then there are people who really don't chatter much. So whatever, getting some help all over. The Holy Ghost is in this place tonight. So these verses that we're going to read, it has nothing to do with God trying to make you loud if you're quiet or out in the open if you're reserved. None of that. So let's read the verse and I'll explain what I mean. In Acts chapter number 4, verse number 13, the Bible says, "Now when they saw the boldness of Peter," and we can see Peter that because we know the way he lived, his behaviors, "and John, and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus." The meaning behind the power of the gospel is that it will give you boldness. Because, look, Brother Eric and I have different personalities or way of thinking, whatever you want to describe that. If I'm louder and he's softer, this verse isn't saying that I'm bold and he's not. It's Peter and John. They had different personalities, okay? Well, Peter's bold because he's Peter. No. You know why? Because the boldness comes from the power of the gospel. So it doesn't matter if someone's more loud and more talkative or if someone is more calm and not addicted to coffee and caffeine and is just chill. Because when they share the gospel, where does the power come from? It's the boldness to speak up and give the gospel. That is what we need to get a hold of. We say, well, why don't you go out and do it? You're much more outgoing. No. How about we all go out and do it, because you might be used by God to witness to this person better than me. Well, the preacher can do it. Well, we were at an outreach last month and there were 2 Mormon boys that were walking around and I got a hold of them and I was waiting for them to come around and I was going to witness to them. But then God sent Daniel right at the right time. It's as if God was saying, yeah, you're probably going to blow it, so I'm going to send somebody else that's just going to be able to deliver it a lot better than you. Calm spoken. Okay? The boldness is what we get from the power of the gospel. And let's not forget that. We need to be bold. 2 Corinthians 3, one more thought on that one. 2 Corinthians 3. 2 Corinthians 3, verse 12. Bible says, "Seeing then that we have such hope, we use great plainness of speech." That plainness of speech is a type of boldness. You're not mincing words. You're not trying to appease a sinner. You're not trying to... Where don't you find this? Find the 5 largest churches in town and you pretty much can bank on they're not using plainness of speech. They're using words to tickle your ears and make you feel like you're some super snuggle bunny with the Lord, and they're not wanting to be bold. They're not wanting to use plainness of speech. The power of the gospel gives us all of that. Ladies, you can be bold and you can use plainness of speech. It has nothing to do with a man versus a woman. The gospel gives us all the same power. You can be a bold witness for the Lord. I can tell you, I don't want to witness to 2 ladies. I don't. I'll do it, but I'd rather not. because a lady can relate to a lady better. Now, is the power of the gospel there? I'd much rather just give them a tract and say, read this. But ladies, the church needs you to be a bold witness that can use plainness of speech and gently and boldly at the same time, and softly and plain at the same time, be able to sit someone down or have a conversation with someone and very plainly give them the gospel. God has given you that boldness to do that. And pray that we all take advantage of it. 2 Corinthians 7, verse number 4. The Bible says, great is my boldness of speech toward you. Great is my glorying of you. I am filled with comfort. I am exceeding joyful in all our tribulation. We see it again. It's not wrong to have bold speech. You can be bold and not a bully. And that's what God wants us to do and to be. So we have hope from the power of the gospel, peace, love, boldness. I'd like to look at two more. One is in Luke 15. And then get Ephesians 6 with that. Luke 15 and Ephesians 6. Luke chapter 15, we'll do first. Luke 15, verse number 22. This is the prodigal son. And verse 21 we'll start with in Luke 15. And the son said unto the father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet. And bring hither the fatted calf, and kill it, and let us eat, and be merry. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. We talked about that physical versus spiritual death, I believe, a few Sundays ago. His son was alive physically, dead spiritually. But he's lost, but now he's found, and they began to be merry. A dead man now gets new clothes, a robe of righteousness. All throughout the Bible we see this mention of the new man. We see verses that say, hey, put on. We're clothed now with humility. We're clothed with the righteousness of Christ. We're no longer now destitute and naked and ratty clothes before God. No, He has now clothed us. But He's clothed us for a reason. And that reason is found in Ephesians 6. And I know these verses make great conference themes. They make great VBS themes. But I'd like to look at it simply tonight in the fact that we now have a new robe. We have new clothes that the Lord has given us. And that came from the power of the gospel. And the verse in chapter 6, the verse says in verse 11, put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That's the fight. So God not only clothed us with His righteousness, and now we have full salvation. Okay, we get it. But now He has given us clothing that we are to put on so that we can fight all the stuff we just read about. And if we don't put that on, we don't use what we have, all we're doing is going back to the ratty clothes and trying to make an effect of something that has no effect. What's our fight? Physical or spiritual? Okay, so it says, wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all preservation and supplication of the saints. And it goes on. We talked about this at break during our lunch fellowship. More time in prayer. Where does that come from? The stuff that we're to put on. The new clothes we got. We want to have church security, you know. The men have the breastplate of righteousness with the bulletproof vest, and we've got the 9mm, the sword of the holster and all that, and we got our feet shod, we got the steel tip boots, we'll kick them in. So we got, and I'm not saying we want to have all that, right? But if we don't get a hold of the power that's behind the gospel of that robe of righteousness, that clothing of humility, and all the things listed in Ephesians 6, we are not going to be prepared for battle. We'll shoot the physical bad guy that comes in, and we'll make the news, and everybody will think we're great, but we won't, but we'll fail to be able to protect ourselves against the real enemy. And I don't want anybody to get injured physically, and neither do you. And I don't even like saying it, but if I were to go down in a pile of brass next Sunday, guess where I'm going? I'm going to be with the Lord, amen. I don't want to go next Sunday, okay? I don't. Make sure you got an extra magazine next. I don't want to go. But I'm going to go be with the Lord. And my wife doesn't want me to go. My kids don't want me to go. But I'm going to be with the Lord. She'll grieve, but she'll have joy knowing where I am. Now, if I was lost and I end up in a pile of brass next Sunday and my wife's saved, she's going to grieve, but she ain't going to joy because she's going to know where I ended up. So the real battle is a spiritual battle. And we want people to be armed properly. We are armed Christians. We are carrying the sword of the Spirit, amen. Helmet of salvation. And we need to pray. And that comes from the power received from the gospel. New clothes. Last one, and then we'll be done, is Acts 13. Acts 13. Verse number 38. Acts 13. Verse number 38. The Bible says, "Be it known unto you, therefore, men and brethren, that through this man is preached unto you the forgiveness of sins, and by him all that believe are justified from all things from which ye could not be justified by the law of Moses." The meaning of the power of the gospel is that we are free from guilt. And I believe that there's a lot of Christians that are saved and on their way to heaven, but they don't understand what it means to be free from guilt. Why would somebody feel guilty about something that they have no reason to feel guilty about? What did we see? The law of Moses. Are we under the law of Moses? No, we're not. But if we were under the law of Moses, all of us would have done what? We would have broken the law of Moses. Should we feel guilty? Yes, because you broke the law. Did Christ fulfill the law for us? Did He sacrifice Himself for us? The power of the gospel is that we are free from guilt. Romans 8 talks about all that. No condemnation, nothing's going to separate us from the love of God. So if we live in this state of just feeling guilty, why? You're not guilty. The meaning behind the power of the gospel includes we are free from guilt. We have been forgiven. Romans 6 and Colossians 2 further confirms that truth. Go to Romans 6 and then we'll finish in Colossians 2 on being free from guilt. Romans 6 at the end of the chapter. But now being made what from sin? Free. Now being made free from sin and become servants to God, ye have your fruit unto holiness, and the end everlasting life. Why would you feel guilty if God has freed you from the guilt of sin? You're going to lose the power. You're going to lose the power. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. That gift offered, you accept it. You've made free from sin. Now what are you? A servant to God. I just feel guilty all the time, Lord. I would just wake up and I feel guilty. And I think about this and I feel, well, stop thinking about that. I don't know how to. What does the verse tell us to do? Give me the answer. Look at the text. What does the verse tell us to do in verse number 22? But now, being made free from sin, what do? We serve God. We serve God. I'm feeling guilty. Okay, find a way to serve God. Well, I'd rather just think about all my guilt. Okay, well then, you don't have any power. I mean, you have it, but you're just relinquishing it. You have a sword, you've just thrown it to the side. Find a way to serve. That's the meaning, one of the meanings behind the power of the gospel. And then lastly, Colossians 2, and we'll close out in prayer. Colossians 2, verse number 13. Colossians 2:13. And being dead in your sins, and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath He quickened together with Him, having forgiven you some of your trespasses. Well, you say, Brother Jimmy, I know how to read the verse. Yeah, we know how to read the verse, but we live the verse how I just read it. And we just like to hold on to the guilt. Well, having forgiven you of the trespasses that I'm going to do from now on, but Lord, I'm going to hold on to all that stuff in the past. No, that's why you feel guilty all the time. All trespasses. Having forgiven you all trespasses. Is that a license to sin? No. It's a license to help us all feel secure in our forgiveness. Because if you don't feel forgiven, you're going to feel guilty. Put your hand up if you're married. Put your hand up if you're married. Okay. Now, if you make your spouse feel like there's no closure on an argument, or there's no closure on an issue, or there's still something in the air because of that, how do you feel? Yeah. God's saying, would you stop acting like that? You have been forgiven. The air is clear. There's nothing between me and you anymore. And He says, if you don't get a hold of that and realize that you have been forgiven all of your trespasses, you are going to lose out on accessing the full power of the gospel. Relationships work when the air is clear. We've got to do that in our physical relationships down here, and God has done it on the cross. And when we've trusted Him, we have been forgiven of all. We don't carry a debt load anymore, so we need to stop walking around like that. Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the cross. I remember telling my wife one time, man, we fought a lot, especially the first 10 years of marriage. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, she thought she knew what she was doing, but none of us knew what we were doing. And the worst thing to do is to keep a list. I mean, we don't write it down on a piece of paper. We just have it up here. Well, you did this, and you did this, and you did this, and you did this, and I put it away in my back pocket, because I'll tell you what, the next time an argument comes up, oh, buddy, you're going to get it. That doesn't help. You know what God said? He blotted out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and He took it out of the way, and He nailed it to the cross. It ain't there no more. He's not going to bring it up to you like a spouse would bring to another spouse to get back at them. God is not trying to get back at us. We are guilt-free. We have been forgiven. Amen. And we need to tap into that. That's the power behind the gospel. Amen, brother. Lest us not forget.